4 a.m. awaken, like 4:05 a.m. jerk off to like hardcore porn, get the fucking blood going, like, because if you took that kind of approach to fucking people out of their pensions, like, you'd be a millionaire. But
dude, that's crazy.
anyway.
If
Yeah.
there's a video where a dude says, wake up at 4 a.m. and then jerk off to get the blood flowing, I have to see it. So if you know that video, you got to send that to me, because I would love to. So fucking funny.
A video of him jerking out? No.
Yes, the video.
Yeah, dude, that's all I heard.
I have to see it, Tony.
I'll send you a video of me jerking off at 4 a.m.
Welcome to the 169th episode of the Cast That Ends Creation. I'm your host, Chris Deering. This is the show where I interview bands and public figures from the mathcore adjacent community. If you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, do all the things social. Every little bit helps. And feel free to join us every Sunday and Wednesday for the live cast where you can interact with the guests in real time. Or you can just hang out in the chat. You can subscribe to this Twitch channel for just $5 to get access to the interviews before they hit YouTube and other streaming platforms, as well as get some exclusive emotes. You can also do that for free by attaching Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. It's like taking $5 from Jeff Bezos' pocket and putting it into mine. With that out of the way, let me introduce our guest today, who dropped their debut album, When the Drugs That Made You Sick Are the Drugs That Made You Better, back in August. Welcome in Crippling Alcoholism. How's it going?
Good, thanks for having us.
Dude, absolutely. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you tell us who you are, what you do in the band?
Danny, you want to go first?
I'm Danny. I play drums, and that's it.
All right, straightforward.
I'm Tony. I guess I do everything Danny doesn't, so kind of, doing the lion's share over here. But everything that isn't drums.
So what is everything that isn't drums? I hear like a million different instruments. What's going on?
It's really not a lot. It's just guitar, bass, and then a lot of synths. Actually, like synth pedals. I'm trying to market that.
Synth pedals? Yeah,
like a ton of, and then just weird sort of like guitar effects, but everything was played. There were a few things that were played. The recording studio that we went to, Blackheart, which is up in New Hampshire. He's a guy, so we worked with Eric. I always mispronounce his last name. It's Sauter, but he has like a collection of like old organs and synthesizers and like a lot of analog shit. So there was a little bit of that in there, just because it was sort of spur of the moment. He was like, why don't you use this stuff that's available? But like, we brought to the studio just a bunch of guitar pedals, like synth emulators and stuff like that. But it's all analog, or like mostly analog. And so, yeah, it's pretty much just guitar, bass, and then a lot of like weird effects and stuff. But honestly, the mixing is really what makes it sound like bigger than the sound that I had when I was drafting.
Well, let's get into it. How did the band come together?
I mean, Danny and I have known it. We met back when I was in the band Needle Play. We were on tour in the Northeast, and then we met Danny. Were you guys playing that night when we were in New York, Danny?
No, I just came in. Like, I saw the bands that were playing, and I was kind of at that point trying to go to shows within that community anyway, so I more or less, like, I was living upstate at the time, and I came in town. I'm sure there was at least something else I did, but I pretty much came for the show because I saw you guys were playing, and Noises and Under the Pier, I think, was playing too.
Yeah.
Lineup.
No, that was a great tour. I loved that tour.
It was
sick.
It was
the
like
most fun I've ever had in my
I don't even know
life.
what that was.
By far. Those boys are fun. And no, it was Ashley from Thin, right? Because Thin put the show
that would make
together.
sense too.
Yeah. And he introduced us. And I had no idea who you were. And he was like, you guys got together. He's like, you guys got to get together and do something. And I was like, I don't know who the fuck this asshole is.
Yeah, right.
But then I heard, I didn't realize at that time, because I had actually listened to Horse Torso a lot, like I think you had the album on YouTube, and I used to just like play it. And I assumed like whoever made this was like, for some reason, I assumed you were all like a lot older and like more decrepit like more fucked up looking, just because the music's so like just dirty and like very discordant. So I'm just picturing like a bunch of like
It's like dirty
like,
hippies or something.
yeah, like something, just people who are like real fucked up with like meth mouth and stuff like that. And so I meet Danny and I don't put two and two together because he looks like a normal like functioning adult. And then it sort of clicked later. I was like, holy shit, he's the guy who wrote that stuff. And like, also he introduced you as a drummer. I didn't know that you like wrote everything. And so like when I found that out, I was like, all right, I actually do really need to hook up with this guy. And it was like years before we ever really put anything together. Like when we finally started like actually putting our like, declarations into actions, because we were constantly for years just like, dude, we got to do a project together. We had a bunch of other ideas. And then Danny sort of came on from nursing, and then you broke your finger. And so we couldn't do, I remember we were going to record some stuff for nursing, and he like learned a bunch of shit. And then he broke his finger, and he was like, I was like, there's just no way you're going to be able to do these drums for nursing. So like, I had already scheduled recording time just to record something. And I had some of this stuff, the Crippling Alcoholism stuff, in my back pocket as like a more like laid back thing. So I was like, how about we just like take it easy while you're recovering, and do something like that's just like way less technical and involved. And that's sort of how that happened. I know it was a bit of a fucking meandering story, but
no, it's all good. I'm surprised you could play anything with a broken finger, Danny. Like, what was?
It was like right after.
Yeah. So I was healed by the time we did the Crippling Alcoholism stuff, but it was funny because I just learned literally the hardest, most complicated, complex, dense shit, and like, I feel like there's got to be a museum somewhere in the world that would be the appropriate place for like the sheet that you sent me that describes all the different riffs within the song. Like, it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's just like, it was like every riff in the song, whether it lasted 2 measures or like repeated 16 times, there was like its own section where it was, the meter was given, and then it was a description sometimes of just the emotion that the riff gave off. Like, so this thing had like 42 different riffs, like in a song. I mean, it was absolute insanity. I showed it to like my girlfriend, who's not a musician, just because it's like, it translates like how ridiculous that is, So, and then I like injured my finger, and it wasn't like really like a full break, but it was something that I wasn't able to play for. I think it was like 2 full months, which was
God, that would drive me crazy.
It sucked, and I was lucky that it didn't even though I had to cancel a handful of things, and that sucked, it was still better than if it had happened later in the year, because like I had like a tour with another band a couple months after. I just, the spring is always busier than the winter, so like, yeah, either way, it was like, the Crippling Alcoholism stuff like still has like some complexity, but yeah, it wasn't, compared to that, it was like, all right.
Oh, like, yeah. Well, just song structure. I think there's more parts in one nursing song than like half of that album.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like if the whole Crippling album was one song long, it would still be like a third of the parts,
Yeah.
So I feel like there was 2 pieces of news here that we got to like, talk about real quick. First of all, nursing's still a thing, because I was kind of wondering if this was taking the place of nursing, because some of the riffs and stuff sound very similar. It's a lot of the similar themes and stuff. So nursing's still a thing then?
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing about nursing is it's like, with that first album, there's definitely like a standard of fucking technicality, which for me is like very stressful, because I'm like, all right, man, I actually have to practice. And like, it's fucking brutal. Like for that album, I was staying up to like 3-4 in the morning every night for like weeks, just trying to like get all that shit down. And so Danny broke his finger. Jonathan was going through some shit too, the singer from nursing. And at that time, there was those 2 things coming together. And I was like, all right, let's just like take it easy on the whole nursing front. Let's pivot to this other thing. I've already paid for this recording, and I kind of don't want it to go to waste. And I didn't want to wait, because it takes so fucking long to record anything, especially if you want to do it like at a studio. and like just getting the money together and stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm really passionate about this other thing. Danny, would you want to be involved in that? And then by then his finger had healed, and Jonathan was like, had like recovered from the shit that he was going through. And it's like, ironically, we probably could have done nursing in that same deadline, but I kind of had to make an executive decision because I was like, right now, like, and this was like a month out, I think. I was like, I don't think we're ready to record. Certainly not nursing, because it's just like, it's literally just like part. Everything is like so chaotic and fast. And like, for me, I find it really taxing. And I was like, I don't have time for this right now. Like, we have to do something a bit more laid back and less demanding music. And to be fair, like, so like, I still love nursing, and then like from a strictly like from just as a musician, it's awesome to play that kind of stuff. But it's like, I don't really honestly listen to a lot of technical stuff that much these days. Like, I listen to more of like just simple, like a lot of punk stuff, or like even like easy listening, like older, like Baroque pop. I listen to fucking just like straightforward electronic music and the fucking doomy stuff. Like and at that time I was like, I'm not even really feeling like the really crazy technical stuff. Back when I had, fuck did I even call that album? Self-Care. I was like all about that music in that moment. And so it was like really fulfilling for me to play it. But like, I don't know, it just made more sense to switch over to this project.
Okay. And the other piece of news that you guys just said was that Danny's drummer for nursing. I didn't know that was the case.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to have to relearn all that shit.
I know. Like, I'm sure some of it is back there somewhere, but like, oh my God. Yeah. I'm going to need to dust off that essay about the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to record that stuff, because it was like, you know, I had enough time with it that I was starting to formulate more like ideas for what I could do and just get more comfortable with certain things. But I think I only learned like a couple songs. Like,
yeah, we only had like 3 or 4, but they were very jam packed.
Yeah, 3 or 4 of those is like 5 albums. So yeah, that'd be great to record that shit.
Why the name Crippling Alcoholism? It's a sick name, by the way. And like, I've said y'all's name a couple times, and people are just like, "Fuck, that's a sick name for a band." I'm like, "Yeah, it fucking is." So yeah.
Yeah, because I think so. We were on the Mathcore podcast. I just listened to it the other day, and Christian and Levi were like, "Look, we, you know, whatever we feel about this music, we're like, we fucking hate the name." And I totally get that. Yeah.
Dude, the name is so good. Oh my God. No.
But ironically for me, that was the one thing I was confident about. Like, I was like, I'm not sure about this music. I don't know how it's going to resonate. I don't know. It felt like very experimental. The most difficult thing about this was I couldn't just rely on like technical shit, because like, and as hack as it's going to sound, and it absolutely is, with a lot of like nursing and then like even needle play, I was like, it's all right if it's like not even that creative, because it's super fucking fast, and people who are into that shit are into that shit. Okay. It's like the blast beats equivalent. You're like, it doesn't need to be like well written. It can just be like fucking fast, and people are gonna feel it. Or it's like crazy technical. I could not rely on any of that with this. I'm like, damn, I actually have to like write songs, and I have to have like some kind of like coherence to them. But
man, I have to be good now. Damn.
Yeah.
No, dude, you were good and everything.
But no, it was that the name. I was like, I'm 100%, behind the name, and so the name is like it's an homage to the subreddit Crippling Alcoholism, which is like my favorite of all subreddits. It is really just a very fucked up place. And so the disclaimer, if you ever go to r/Crippling Alcoholism, it's essentially like, this is not for like problem drinkers or like weekend warriors, they call it. They're like, this is for people who have like surrendered to like death and are like, and it's a fucking big subreddit. It has like I think 60,000 like active members, and just every day it's just nonstop, just like agonizing stories. And but it has like a whole community to it, and it's this like sort of community built on suffering. And it's like it's stuff I struggle with too, like personally. And so I resonate with it really well. And like when I was in my like darkest days, it was a subreddit and a kind of online community that like really actually ironically gave me a lot of hope, because it's so brutally honest. And like everybody there who's at once you're, I mean, when you're visiting that subreddit, it's like something brought you there. Everyone there has their own like trauma and like just fucked up shit that they're dealing with. And it is this kind of like sort of brutally honest community where people are like coping with their suffering. Cause like a lot of like recovery and sobriety stuff like just doesn't work for certain people. It just, their brains are not. And so you almost need to like find alternative ways to like deal with that shit. And like, honestly, like there's just people who are like, I'm drinking and then one day like I'm going to die. And that's the choice that they made. And like, if that gets you through the fucked up shit in your life, like just fucking so be it, man. Like everybody has their shit, and there are way worse things to do to people. Like as long as you're not hurting anyone.
Yeah. God damn.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I articulated it. It was just like it just resonated with me a lot. It was a place I went to all the time. And they have a whole like subculture to it.
Well, like your lyrics really reflect that kind of like situation and stuff like that. We'll definitely get to it. We'll definitely get to that part, but just wanted to set it up a little bit more before we do that. So why the album title, When the Drugs That Make You Sick Are the Drugs That Make You Better? I guess you kind of just said it now that I'm thinking about it. That like some people are just kind of like resigned to doing that to like just live through their life or whatever.
Well, I mean, it's so like it. So a lot of that stuff and like the titles and the lyrics and even like the Crippling Alcoholism like title is like there's like the literal reference, and then there's sort of like the broader like symbolic reference of like there is literally a place in addiction where you have been doing X drug substance and you now have accrued like agonizing symptoms either through withdrawal or like just destroying your body. And the only thing that will like alleviate that, ironically, is this substance that did all that shit to you, right? And just so you're in this kind of prison. Yeah, you're in this prison, and like you like a lot of functioning like addicts, like they can attest to this. It's like you know that like you're slowly destroying your body, but like to break out of that prison, to like either whether it's like confronting like withdrawals head on or like confronting all the psychological trauma that you've been accruing or like facing all the people that have like cut you out of their lives or for whatever reason, like to break out of that cycle is so difficult. So you end up in this kind of like equilibrium where you're constantly hurting yourself, but the thing that you're hurting yourself with is also the thing you're using to combat that hurt. And so for me, like that, I think can be applied to more things than just like illicit or like illicit substance abuse or like alcoholism, where it's like a lot of the things in our own lives that are like outside of something that's extreme as addiction, whether it's like sex or food or your like sort of social media or like the content that you consume are like hurting you and putting you in the exact same prison where they're both providing like a ton of hurt, but they're also your escape from that hurt. And it's like very difficult to break out of these things, but it's also like kind of it's almost like a necessary state of being for like modernity, like just in this like current climate. And there are people who are like, who can break out of that kind of stuff and like, but it's very difficult.
God damn, dude, that's so fucking deep, man. I I feel like this is too
I'm
good of a
just
segue to not
fucking
take, so
kidding.
we're just gonna go straight to the lyrics because, dude, I fucking love the lyrics, man. I think they're perfectly artful and full of metaphors, but it's not so much imagery that it's hard to like actually understand what the song's about. Like you can clearly tell what each song's about. They're like super fucking dark too, is like what you've been talking about. I really like this segment from Group Home. I am ski mask. I am rope. I'm the knife in your hand when you slit your throat, and I'm close. What the fuck, dude? That's just so fucking dark, man. It's so good. I mean, the question I had after that was where you get your inspiration from, but it's obvious you get it from this Reddit and from things you feel like are similar.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I like draw like Danny can kind of attest to this because like when we started this, like I was like, I don't want the name to be too misleading. I don't want all these songs to be about like addiction or certainly not like specifically alcoholism. It's like so for me personally, like my experience with that kind of stuff has been like very enlightening into the sort of undercurrent and like darkness that like reality is shrouded in, and like has introduced me to like a kind of like agony that I couldn't even imagine prior, which like opened me up to all the like agonies that other people go through and like are omnipresent. So it's like a starting point, but it's definitely not like they're not all. I mean, I don't even think really any of the songs are about like alcoholism specifically. It's just again, it's like trying to be like symbolic of that, but and like Danny, like I don't know if you remember that conversation.
What the specific conversation about the lyrics, like, or just about the name?
Just yeah, just like the name and or just not wanting everything to be, or like even really anything to be about,
right,
like alcoholism per se. It's just a name, like meth, right? That like
right,
a band that I fucking love. When I listen to their stuff, I'm not like, oh, they're talking about meth. Like, I mean,
right,
talk about creative lyrics. That band, they like created their whole like it's like almost like a religion or like a cult that they're like calling to, and Mother of Red Light.
Yeah,
and they have this whole like mythos and like occult ideology stuff, and that they've like created. So it's like the name. This is how that name resonated with me. I have no idea what the name meth, and now it's meth period. It was actually like going for with their name, but when I listened to their stuff and like took the name into consideration, it was like meth is such an extreme, like brutal drug, and it like evokes that kind of imagery and like symbolism in your mind, which is like reflected by their music, but it's not. None of their songs for me really seem like they were about like meth use, and like they're certainly not like confined to that. I have no idea like what their actual lyrical, but it didn't seem like that to me. And so like that would be like a parallel. Like I didn't want all our songs to be, about like fucking alcoholism or anything, but it's just like extremeness and like the succinctness, and like that's a real thing from that subreddit. Is like when I went on that, and you just see like a page called Crippling Alcoholism. It's so like just blunt and blatant,
right.
And it just really captures the fucking shit that these people are going through. I'm like, whatever that like abstract thing is, like that's what I wanted to like focus on.
So do you come up with the like stories and the lyrics and stuff yourself, or are you like taking them from like that subreddit or like other like areas?
No, I don't take it from that. Just the name. I don't, and nothing else I really took from that subreddit. It's just like the band's name is
like,
everything else
ideas
is all
from like
just,
other
like,
places and stuff too, because I know there's like a lot of other like different like themes or whatever in the lyrics, but like some of it would be hard to. I feel like it would be hard to quantify as like as yourself. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to like somebody else's like story. I feel like.
Dude, I mean, like they're dark lyrics, and the fucking world's a really dark place. I mean, there's no end to like inspiration for that kind of stuff. And like, I don't know, it's like a lot of stuff that I was sort of, and I kind of was touching on this in with nursing, but like with this album, it was like more sort of present. It's just like how everything just seems to be about like domination and authority, and how that kind of like manifests in like sex and our relationships with everyone, and like how like you know, fucking traumatized and abused everyone is, and just like the fucking growing like almost like I'll give you one specific example. Like I was getting really into I don't know if it's schizo or schizo posting, where it's like shit posting, but all the shit post content is like around like either like schizoaffective disorder or like basically losing your grasp on reality. And they have a whole like, you know, meme culture to them, and like the rise of that, and like how that's reflected in, or how that's like a reflection of just like how people are kind of doing on average when they're like sort of, because of all the insane like media, and people have no fucking community, and they're so atomized, and you're constantly told that like anything that's going wrong in your life is your fault, and you have to be competitive and beat the fuck out of other people and get their shit. And like just how like that leaves people with an almost like schizoaffective like take on the world with it. You don't know what to believe. You're like actively rebelling against like the whatever status quo, but you're not even sure how to do that, because like any kind of rebellion you take almost seems like a fucking just an extension of the status quo itself. You know, like when people go to like Hot Topic and they get like punk rock clothes, and they're like, oh, I feel like I'm, you know, really transgressive. And it's like, no, you're just another expression of the system that you're like trying to transgress. It's like, you know, there's like a million examples of that. And like just people having like no real, like almost like losing their like grasp of reality, and, but having a kind of like angst to it. So like that song, Your Body is a Gulag, was like definitely a reference to like the schizo posting world, where there's this like sort of like violent retribution that a lot of people want, because they have like really fucked up lives, and they want people to like pay for it. And so, yeah, like a lot of American like psychosis is like, goes hand in hand with like extreme violence or just like random acts of fucking carnage. And that's something that like, I don't know. I feel like, I know I'm going off on a fucking
No. This is great.
here,
Keep going. You're good.
But yeah, I mean, I think that like, it doesn't necessarily, again, like a lot of the lyrics are like take on extreme content, but they're like more, or like, I don't know, it's just supposed to be more symbolic of things that like everyone's going through. Like everyone kind of like fucking hates the government, or you fucking hate other people in whatever group for whatever reason. You have a kind of like, you know, resentment and like fascination with violence, just because like we're bombarded with violence in media and our entertainment all the time. And like, you hear on the news about the more like extreme cases of people who just like snap from that and like shoot up an office building, but like it's something that affects all of us.
Right. God damn, dude, you're so good at like quantifying like, you know, what's your like inspiration behind the lyrics and shit is. You should write a fucking book or something, honestly. That was super interesting to listen to.
Well, thanks,
The
Chris.
world's
God
not ready
damn.
for Tony's book.
I feel bad I'm fucking talking the whole time, but
Dude, no, that was super good. Like I've never had somebody explain their lyrics as well as that. Like that was great. Usually it's just people like, you know, they just have like a story in their head or something like that. You know what I mean? And you're just like, I don't know, talking about how brutal the fucking world is and shit. And like, dude, it's fucking true too. You know?
I think another thing is that like the cool thing about music and lyrics, or like whatever fucking poetry writing, is that a lot of times like you're expressing things that you can't really like capture with words. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the whole point of it, is like you have a vibe and you're like, I can't really articulate this, but like, or with like words or conversation tools, but like I can capture it in like really fucked up imagery and like really fucked up instrumentals and stuff like that. The thing, and it's like a lot of it is like I just have like a vague image of like and I'll like talk to Danny about this, and like honestly, my fiance, I'll like talk to her a lot about this. She really helped me like work through a lot of stuff. Which like I kind of have like a vague idea of what I want to talk about, but I don't really know what I'm saying until it's like until I've like almost finished the song, if that makes sense.
So
and
you do I forgot what it's fucking called, where you just start writing shit down and eventually it makes sense. I fucking forget what it's
Yeah.
called.
I mean, I have like a vague idea of what I want to say, but like I don't know. It's not. I think some people are like they have like a fucking blueprint of like exactly what they want to talk about and like what. Like I just don't have the like bird's eye view to really like to be able to handle that. I kind of just like will start writing something, and if I think it's like resonating with what I wanted to talk about, then I'll like keep going. And if I think it sucks, then I'll just be like, all right, scrap that.
Well, shit, man, they're all fucking great.
Well, and Danny actually talked because we originally, I think the final album was what, 8 songs. Originally, I had 13, and Danny was
God
like,
damn, that'd be way
when
too
Danny
long,
came
bud.
on, he's like, look, a lot of this stuff, like I really vibe with. I think we can do it, but like it needs to be shorter. And it was what about this one? Do we really need this one? Because it sounds a lot like this one. And at first I'm like, no, it's perfect. It needs to be what it is. Like it's my little art thing. And now I'm very glad he talked me down because there was a lot of like repeated themes and like concepts. And I'm very glad. Like I think I have a tendency to put too much shit in, and honestly, like people see it 13. If it's over like 10 tracks, a lot of people look at that and they're like, I'm not even gonna fucking begin to listen to this.
Right.
Yeah, your
It's
eyes
too
glazed
fucking
over.
long. Yeah.
Well, also like
I'm glad we kind
nowadays
of agreed
people's
on what song to cut.
nowadays people's like attention spans like all fucked up too. So like you're lucky if they'll sit down and listen to a full album nowadays. Anyway, so I'm glad he talked you down for for some of the tracks.
Yeah, which is funny because like when I was in high school and like listening to Swans, like Swans will have like a fucking 17-minute song that is like drone, and you don't even get to the real like instrumental meat until like 10 minutes into it. And like I loved that shit. Or like I don't know, a ton of like that kind of like post rock, like atmospheric black metal stuff, or like some of the more like experimental like noise stuff is like super fucking long, like
Right.
fucking 2-hour albums.
And now
like,
people are making music for TikTok and shit where it's like
yeah, exactly.
like a minute or
It's
something.
like a full song is like too much. They're like, you really need a full 3 minutes. It could be looking at the other.
Intros are a thing of the past at this point because
Yeah,
you do an intro one too many times and people are like, never mind. And I'm not conditioned for this.
Right. You go straight to the hook or whatever.
Yeah, we tried to like have kind of an intro, but we didn't want to like drag it out too much. But even then, people are like, the intro is like takes way too long. It's like, bro, put down the vape pen for like 2 seconds and just like listen to something. Like, not even like our shit. Just like there is some.
It goes brown, brown, brown 5 times, and it should go brown, brown, brown 3 times. It's got to be an odd number because like that makes things interesting and surprises you. But 5's too long. Just saying. No.
Yeah.
So how would y'all classify your music? Like what genre would you put it under?
What do you think, Tony?
I don't know, like noise rock, I guess, or like we're post mathcore. All right.
Okay.
It's science core.
No, definitely not. Fuck science.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That's right. Tony hates science. Yeah, dude. Is that like chemists hate like astrophysics type of thing, or you told me before your theory on it of just everything's like hypothetical, even stuff that's like supposedly proven. It's like it can only be hypothetically like.
No, dude, the online like science-ism community, like people, and what it is people cannot handle not having God in their life. So then they replace it with science. And also it's like their own narcissism and egoism where they have to be fucking smarter than everyone because they read Wikipedia articles on like quantum mechanics where like hasn't even really been like, there's no real solidified like answer to a lot of these questions. And they're like, oh, let me tell you about like quarks and fucking strong nuclear forces. It's like, all right, settle down, dude. And everything, they fucking love Elon Musk. Everything can be fixed by science. They're like, oh yeah, like you're lonely and like you want to kill yourself, like science, dude. We're gonna science that away. It has nothing to do with like you finding meaning in your life or like having a community. But like we're, you know, anyway, that is a completely
I'll take your word for it, man. You're smarter than me.
That's not true at all. I just
like
in
science,
that world
but
because I work. Yeah,
I like Neil deGrasse Tyson, man. Lay off.
Dude, he's the shit. I love him. He gets a lot of shit. He gets a lot of shit because he's not like, you know, hardcore scientist. And he like, you know, scientists are like, oh, he dumbs it down for the public. It's like, that's his fucking job, is to make things accessible to like normal people who don't fucking, read
you gotta
on like
dumb it down. I mean, like if dumbing it down just means changing the language to express the same exact point, then yeah, of course, dumb it down. Like that's how you teach. I mean, that's what teaching is. Like you dumb it down because you're giving it to someone who's trying to learn it from you. I don't know.
If you can't dumb it down, then you don't understand it. If you just recite the like technical like fucking nuances, then it's because you've just like memorized it. If you can't like make some kind of like simplistic like metaphor or something, then you have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
Oh, yep. That's the thing about teaching too. Exactly. Like you're breaking down what you do. And if you can't analyze what you're doing, there must not be that much depth to it. Like, I don't know.
You see that in music all the time, right? Where people just like memorize like talking points or like some fucking, Adam Neely, like some Adam Neely video that then all of a sudden they have a PhD, self-appointed PhD in music theory.
Yeah.
And
Jacob Collier, Adam Neely,
Jacob Collier.
Rick Beato. I don't know anything about that.
I don't know any of these names that y'all are saying.
My dad loves them. That's all I know. That's all I need to know.
My dad would love Rick Beato. Yeah, Rick Beato, because he's like a dad's musician.
Yeah, I'd like to get a beer with that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about guitars.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of like the big influences that went into the music?
So for me, the biggest one was, do you know who Scott Walker is? He's like an old pop singer from the 60s and 70s.
No.
So he was in a band, which was like, it was like easy listening. Like it's stuff that you could like play in front of your grandma and she'd be like, oh, this is lovely.
I have to know who this guy is because I listen to that kind of stuff too, like oldies.
No, I love
Oh yeah, you'd love Scott Walker.
You know, the Walker Brothers. He was in the Walker Brothers. And this couple of like, they had like some big hits.
I just Googled it and I came up with a politician, so that's not correct.
Oh yeah, there's Scott Walker.
Yeah, Scott Walker. Oh god.
Yeah, not him. Different Scott Walker. Scott Walker from the Walker Brothers, musician. Yeah.
He's got that album Patriots for the Tea Party. No.
Yeah.
The Tea Party. Remember that shit?
Yeah. I felt so inspired by his politics that I was like, I'm gonna make this really fucked up noise rock.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if I know any of these songs. Maybe if like I heard him or whatever, I would know him. But anyway,
he does this kind of like, so he's one of those guys who like made his money doing like mainstream pop, which I actually really fuck with. But then as he got a little more independence, he started doing like way cooler stuff, like solo stuff. And the Walker Brothers, which is his band, had this album called Night Flight. And it has this song on it called The Electrician, which is about, I think it's about like a CIA operative, like torturing someone through like electric, applied like
Jesus,
electrical currents, but it's like beautiful. And he has this like very like captivating, like kind of baritone to it. And there's like a whole orchestra behind it. And it was in this movie called Bronson, which is about this like, it was based on a real guy who was like this brutally violent criminal who just he was in jail for like 3 years for doing like a petty armed robbery, but he ended up spending life in jail because he kept fighting everyone and fighting the guards and like starting riots and like just beating the shit out of him. So there's a movie about him called Bronson, where that's his like Charles Bronson is his like alter ego or whatever, not the real Charles Bronson. But anyway, that movie, the opening scene has the electrician in it, which is the first time I heard that song. And I was just like, this is the coolest. And it's like a scene of him like beating the shit out of some like English like riot police or something, or like prison guards. And it's set to this song, The Electrician. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, and that for me is what like really set me off. I was like, whatever's happening here, like I want to fucking do something with that, steal some of these ideas. It's very similar to Clockwork Orange, actually. You have that poster going.
Oh, dude, fucking love
it's like
Clockwork
it's
Orange.
like very much like there's a ton of references to Clockwork Orange. It's very strongly recommend that movie and Scott Walker's movie. So that was for me. That was like the biggest thing.
Huh? I need to check.
And then like Daughters. I love Daughters' music. Like
you could definitely tell that's a big inspiration.
Yeah. And if anything, I was like, God, I really hope I'm not like fucking ripping these guys off. But like, I feel like our stuff, we were trying to make more like melodic songs than like just noise, like stuff where I was actually like singing. There's a melody. There's a lot of like sort of screaming as well, but like that was a big thing where like, can we write like catchy stuff? Like stuff that if you didn't know how fucked up the lyrics were, you could show it to someone. They'd be like, oh, like I kind of like a normal person. They would kind of vibe with it. And like, I have normal friends who don't listen to like fucked up music, and I'll show it to them. And they're kind of like my litmus test. Like, is this like accessible? There's something like really cool about like having a kind of accessible component with it, but also having the more like extreme fucking like mathcore adjacent and like noise rock influence stuff. Like I like mixing those two. I like straight up just experimental shit as well, but I don't know.
Interesting. Well, it's a very like original sound. I mean, you talk about these influences and stuff, but like honestly, I can't really like compare you straight up like 1-to-1 with another band. So I feel like y'all are doing something really different here.
For Danny and I, that was a big thing because we were like, obviously, like there's a ton of fucking bands that we love and are influenced like the way we play and the way we write, but like we kept having to check like, all right, is this its own thing? And I think there was stuff early on in the drafting stage that like sounded a bit too much like a fucking Daughter song or like a Jesus Lizard song. And I was like, all right, I have to pull back on that. Or just throw it out just because I don't know. Those bands they already did it. Like there's no point. Like, you know, there's like
you don't want to be like derivative or whatever. I guess.
Yeah. Like your music, right? The Sound That Ends Creation, like whether or not someone likes your music, they have never heard something that sounds quite like that, right? Like that's one thing. Even if they're like, I fucking hate it, they at least have to admit, I've never heard something that sounds exactly like this. Like there's no real like.
Right. And if they have, I want to hear it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. No, exactly. And that could be like, and it also like, I imagine for you, it's really tough because your music is so like fucking experimental and out there that you're kind of in like uncharted territory. And a lot of people like don't like that. They like the familiar. They're like, it sounds different from a thing that I can't compare it to anything that I know. I don't like this. You know what I mean? That's their like knee jerk reaction. And so it's tough to like
the blessing and the curse.
Yeah.
Between that category that is the lack of a category, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the best place to be. And, you know,
yeah, same with Horse Tour. So not to cut you off.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you know, and it's, I guess if I decided I wanted to do a genre that was more clear and like had these tenets to it, that if I like abided by that, it would be accepted or whatever. But I mean, like, first of all, I can't imagine being inspired to write anything that way. But
no, I fucking kill myself.
yeah, but I mean, like, I don't think I could really in that I wouldn't get motivated enough to go through the motions to do it. And I think also the one, like, well, there's a few benefits to it. I mean, other than maybe being remembered for more than a couple years after you do what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing is that you get like, I mean, you know, all bands get like people that love their music, but I feel like we get less, but the people that love it just like love it. Like they would like kill someone for it, you know?
That level, this one that we put out, yeah, like
just
I mean,
in general,
we have like
like,
no real,
in general, people that do shit that is like uncategorizable, the people that love it really love it. And I'm sure a lot of that is because, you're not gonna, there's only one of that, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, no, dude, and that's how I
sense.
felt about like a lot of, that's like when I first heard Chat Pile, and I was
Dude,
like,
those
I've
guys
never
are doing
heard
some
anything
cool
like
shit.
this. Yeah, and you just had their guitar player on, right?
Yeah,
I watched part of that.
I forgot his first name, but something Manhole. Luther Manhole, that's it.
Luther, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, fuck, those guys are incredible.
Oh, yeah.
That's another huge inspiration for us. That was one of those bands because like I love that vocal style of where it's just a guy like having a mental breakdown. It's not even really like screaming or yelling. He's just like talking to you as if he's like having a full-fledged like psychotic break from reality. And I was like, that is, when I first heard it, I was like, I must have listened to that first EP like just endlessly. Like it was one of the Wilsey X guys that or no, not the first one, the second one with Dallas Beltway.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first. One of the guys from Wilsey showed me that song when we were like jamming together up in New Hampshire, and it's like it was like a 2-hour drive back home, and I just listened to that one song the entire 2 hours. I just kept restarting it. I was like, and it was just like filling me with like so much emotion and like because like it resonates with you emotionally, but you also like the musicianship is like awesome, like the fucking ideas and the riffs and the atmosphere and the fucking like just and the production is so good. That's one of those bands that I was like, this has now changed my taste, like in a very like measurable way.
Chunks
and
Barkley
same with
in chat
Daughters.
says that it's remove your skin, something like that. I think it's please kindly remove your skin.
Remove your skin, please.
Remove your skin,
Sure,
please.
Yeah. That's the one that did it for me too. Like in the song Mask, I was like,
Mask is great
song.
too. Yeah.
I think Spotify just kind of like put that on in my algorithm or however that works, and it was just like,
You're
holy
just so
shit, what is
cool.
this?
They're like, Danny, you're so cool. You're gonna love this new cool music.
Yeah,
Where I had to hear it through a friend. I'm not cool enough.
right,
But no,
like,
we get
so
it.
Cool. Why were you listening to Tom Sawyer by Rush? Oh, you have an excuse. You were teaching a 12-year-old. Okay, that's fine.
So y'all recorded this at Blackheart Sound Studios. Recording and mixing by Eric Sauter. Already talked about him a little bit, and was mastered by Zach Weeks at God City Studios. What was the whole experience like? How long did it end up taking? What were some of like the good and bad parts of it?
Dude, Eric is the man. I mean, like, I'm honestly like, I think there were a lot of times with this where I was like, either like financially or just like creatively was just gonna like kind of give up. And like Eric, just from day one, Eric was like, I fucking love this shit. Like I'm down. I showed him these drafts and he was like, I'm so fucking about this, which is awesome when you're like starting a new project. And we didn't even have like a demo that we could do ourselves and kind of like babysit ourselves. We were going like, I was like, I don't think this is going to work unless we have like really good production. And I don't feel like I can do the production on my own, like even just recording like raw signals. So we like hooked up with Eric, and he's got a really fucking nice studio up in Manchester, New Hampshire. And like, and he had done Wilsey X's stuff, which is very like sonically, like it's fucking masterful. And it puts a huge emphasis on production. And so I was like, all right, if he can handle all the insane shit that the Wilsiacs guys play. He can probably handle our like synthy stuff.
Right.
And yeah, absolutely. Like it was just so awesome because he really kind of like got what we were doing from day one, which I honestly have never experienced. Like most times that I've done, I've only recorded in a professional studio like a handful of times, like probably 4 or 5 times, other than with Eric. And like each time the sound engineer is just like, yeah, it's a fucking job. And we're like, how does that sound? He's like, fine. Like, I don't know, you're paying me regardless, which sucks. Like when you're like starting out and you don't necessarily like, you don't exactly know like where you're going and you're still trying to figure everything out. And you're not sure if it's like,
Right. You're looking to get that feedback.
Yeah. And just have like enthusiasm and someone who's like sharing a kind of like energy with you. And like Eric was that in spades. And he has like just awesome. He also puts like a huge emphasis on like analog, fucking equipment in general. And like, we have a lot of like the same like types of production that we like. And so it was awesome. And he loves like old synthesizers and stuff. So do I. And he was really feeling the whole like synth element. So it was awesome working with him. He's also like extremely smart, he's a musician himself, like really talented guy. It was all, I loved going up there. Like for me, that's like my favorite part. I think I like that even more than like playing live shows because there's just something like you have more control there and you're like you're still in the, you have enough pre-written so that you're not like nervous about coming up with something new, but you also haven't like solidified everything. So you still get to be kind of creative. And then you have access to like all this amazing equipment and sounds that like, yeah, I'm in my office right now, or my fucking like office I share with my fiance. And like, I just don't have access to that kind of like production. So like to really hear it for the first time, like sounding how you kind of envisioned it in your head is fucking awesome. And like when Danny came in, I remember like, dude, Dan, I really am like so insanely lucky to have Danny on this project. I remember Danny came in for one day. He drove up from New York all the way to New Hampshire and he had to do all 8 songs that day. And it was like, it kind of took a while, like any time with recording, like if you have an 8-hour day, like the first hour or 2 is just like setting up fucking drum mics and shit. So he's got like 6 hours to do like 8 full songs. And it's like, we're saying how simple they are, but it's still like, that's a lot of material to do in one day. And he just fucking nailed it. And he's doing all these like changes on the fly. Like each session, each drum take was like slightly different than the other. And Eric just like, we're in the recording booth and he's just like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, he's like, where did you find this fucking guy? And he's like sending like videos to his drummer. And he's like, dude, you got to get good. Like, this is what good is. It's like very jokingly, but. Yeah.
Only in the morning in chat says, but that's okay because he's a fucking machine. Definitely.
Yeah. No, it is. It is crazy. I was blown away. Like, he's a real fucking musician.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing too with the drum parts is like, you know, I'm guessing you felt this way about the parts as they were presented on the demo. Like they were, you know, deliberate beats for each, like, you know, it didn't sound like you put any beats in there that were kind of like, oh, okay, I don't know. It's just going to be like a bunch of fills or it's going to be whatever. It had like melodic passages within it that made sense the entire way through. And like, not even just that, but just like, you know, creatively, I like agreed with the, like, you know, I mean, not that, whatever, but I mean, like, you know, it wasn't like I listened to something, I was like, oh, that seems like a weird, like super imposition over something. It was like, all of it made perfect sense. And it like had a lot of space while also having like frantic, dense, like fills. It was just like, they were all positioned in these places that made perfect sense. So like, I feel like I kind of just memorized like the general vibe of those. And then it was still like just improvising my version of the fills or the beats or adding whatever kind of like, you know, yeah, again, like influential, whatever, you know, type of stuff that I'm in to like adding that vibe to it. But like, yeah, like the content of it was all just kind of like clear and obvious, you know? So it really did feel like I was just able to kind of like do the parts that you already kind of conceived of. And just, yeah, like kind of do them my way. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. And then like that production touch where Eric basically just cracked the door open to the room that the drums were in. Like, you know, it was like a decent sized room. It's not like an ISO booth, you know, whatever. So the sound, you know, we wanted to get like a lot of room sound anyway, because obviously, and you know, kind of a more reverby thing. But like, I don't know how the idea came up where he just like cracked the door open, and because of that, it added this like whipping quality to the snare that just kind of goes like,
yeah.
It's such a perfect touch on the drum sound, like just that little added crack to the snare, you know, like that's like it's a brilliant production move.
Yeah, and I think to that also, like we wanted everything to sound kind of like wet and like almost like blurred. I don't know if that makes sense, but like there's a ton of reverb on everything, a ton of like echo and like effects and stuff. And I don't like super like drums with like a ton of fucking added like post effects or anything, but like just that organic reverb or echo and like slap from having like that hallway mic that when he cracked the door open was like perfect. And it was shit like that when I heard the first draft or the mixes with the live drums, I had like a whole new, I was like, all right, I'm feeling this again. Because like it took almost, I don't know, at least 6 months to record everything.
God
damn. We had to
damn.
space everything out. We had everything written like before we even really scheduled it, but like it's just, you know, it's a lot of money, and like Eric has a certain schedule, and we wanted to do it right and like really take our time with it. So yeah, it took a long time. And so like 6 months, I'm like, I'm so fucking done with these songs. Like they just mean nothing to me at this point. I've heard them so many times. I've had to revise so many things. Like I am sick of them. But then when I heard it with the live drums for the first time, I was like, all right, I have now reinvigorated my like desire to fucking play these songs. And it was just like, yeah, dude, Danny, you're not giving yourself enough credit, but like, I really think that this would not be, would have like flopped if it wasn't for like Danny's drums. Cause I have the drafts and it's not the same.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I appreciate it. I don't think it would have flopped, but I'm glad I was able to put my stamp on it. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm really lucky to be able to do a lot of this type of musical memorization for projects. Like I feel like I'm growing from all these projects. Like I feel like I'm getting better at it. Like I can feel my abilities growing with working with these different composers and stuff that write complicated stuff, and that like, you know, are doing things in a vein that I can like relate to. Cause that's the thing, is it's totally a different experience when it's something like you're going through the motions, you're like playing something, trying to put like heart into it, but like you're not feeling it. So there is like, you know, you can't really do that. So, you know, when it's something that's just like, you know, offers me all the things I want, you know, like I get to play in this heavy way, but I can kind of like, you know, craft the more chaotic parts like within my own style or whatever you want to call it. It was just so nice to play some heavy shit, because like my roots are in playing heavy, like, you know, whatever kind of mathy like rock. And then I just did a detour for like a decade or 12 years or something of like playing jazz, but it's like that was never where my like creative
fucking asshole
heart was. Yeah, some you know, it's some like, you know, whatever it is. At least, you know,
fucking
my
jazz.
experience was just that it was like, I'm glad I learned that approach, but it, you know, genre wise, it was never really where like my creative brain was comfortable, you know? So you kind of gave me the best of both worlds with that, like get to just play these really spacious grooves, but also get to kind of like lose my shit.
No, and that's true. I mean, because like I played a lot of jazz too when I was a wee lad, and it's like very cerebral. And there's like the Charles Mingus's and the John Coltrane's and stuff where it's like super emotional and like and they fucking have like crazy dynamics. But like a lot of the gig jazz that we were playing, like standards and stuff that I would play for like a graduation party, you know. It was not like where my like heart was. Like there was no emotional like catharsis or anything in that. It's very like cerebrally stimulating because you're like, I have to memorize all these changes and like think about ways to like solo over stuff. And I'm sure there's like analogs to drums for that. But like there's not that like release that like heavier stuff like noise rock or mathcore or even like clean math rock has like a lot more like dynamics and kind of like, because it's all sort of rooted in a kind of like punk rock, like experimental punk rock stuff.
Right.
But
yeah, that's an important aesthetic. I feel like it's something that's just a little bit like off the rails, you know?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody, like, I'm sure a lot of musicians, I'm sure most, if not all, like really highly skilled musicians that play a certain style proficiently, like they relate to it, like their heart is in it. So that's if the person playing it is, you know, moved by that and that's where they feel their creativity lies, then they should do it, you know. But yeah, it's like I'm in the same camp, and it's just I think musicians that have learned that skill set, but they want to direct it somewhere else, I think that's where a lot of the really interesting stuff happens. And I definitely, there's parallels of that in the mathcore world with some of the like crazier bands that aren't just doing, you know, 5 for a while and then 7 for a while and then 5 whatever.
Yeah, those are pussy time signatures, man.
I know.
Fucking with 13, 8.
If it's like an amount of fingers I have on my hands and no more, like
Get the fuck out
I'm
of here,
already
Zach.
asleep. Yeah.
5, yeah. Saying that, having played a whole project with like 90% 4/4, but I mean 4/4, man, it works. Don't fix it.
No,
if it
of
ain't
course.
broke. Like, it fucking works, man.
Sure.
4/4. I know the mathcore thing is like the 4/4 with the X through it. It's get out of here 4/4. First of all, most mathcore bands play majority 4/4, even like some of the more technical ones. And
yeah, that should be their policy.
Not your
they
shit.
won't play it if it's in 4/4. Like if you have more than like a few measures of 4/4, like even if they really like the track, they're like, sorry, like you're not making it.
That is so like anti, I don't know, like it's so anti like authenticity to be like you have a part and you really vibe with it, but you're like, wait, it's 4/4, like fucking scrap it, get that the fuck out of here.
Never mind,
Add an extra beat randomly, even if it doesn't fit. Add an extra.
I mean, the logo
like,
makes sense in their case, you know. I get the logo for Mathcore Index.
No, I'm just fucking with them. No,
but I agree.
I mean, they have like a super wide range of music that they cover, and I'm sure they like a lot of like non-mathcore stuff in their personal lives that doesn't play in all these crazy time signatures. But like, there is a kind of like over like intellectualizing of music sometimes with like technical stuff. And that's like not just in like heavy stuff, like it's also in jazz and like a lot of like avant-garde, like modern classical stuff where it's like it just sounds like a dissertation. It sounds like a dry fucking like academic project, and there's no real like emotion behind like any kind of the creativity. Like just leave it. Nobody ruins music worse than musicians sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it's just like overanalyze it so much, and it's like there is that meme of the, you know, like a Wojak guy being like, oh, it's all feels, man. Like, I don't care about, but it's like, it's kind of some truth to that. Like, you just have to, and you can't, I mean, and I totally am on board with like getting into music theory and trying things that are like a little more, you know, cognitively stimulating. But like, when you lose sight of that, that's when you fucked up.
Right.
When you're like, and like, I did find myself going down that path for a while when I was, like right before I was doing nursing, where I would listen to a song and be like, like it's not technical enough. Like, I don't like it, but, you know, and I had to kind of like refine music again. Cause when you're a kid and you listen to music and you know nothing about music, it's like, has this like magic to it.
Right.
You're like
Everything
elevate
slaps.
because you don't know how it's made, and it's like it's like beyond belief to you. You're like, how did any person make, like, even like I remember being like 8 years old and listening to like Blink 182 and just being like, hearing a distorted guitar and being like, that's like magic. I have no idea how they're doing that. And like, then I got into guitar and I started playing in bands and stuff, and you start learning music theory, and you listen to that again and you're like, I know exactly what they're doing. It's fucking boring. And like, because you know how the sausage is made. And like, then you keep going further and further down, and now nothing. It's like a fucking porn addiction or something. You just keep like upping the intensity and like
now you can only get off if people are doing crazy solos and shit.
Yeah. People doing like crazy Kama Sutra or whatever, like having shit in all directions.
Yeah, that just made me want to ask you what kind of porn you're watching these days.
What kind of porn I'm watching these days? Dude, I'm married, dude. I don't fuck with that.
I see.
And I'm pure. I saved myself for the Lord, for the Lord's grace. I can't wait. I'm getting married in 3 weeks. Can't wait to finally see what it's like to hold hands. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But no. Porn is terrible. Porn's what, talk about like the title shit we were talking about, where it's like drugs that cause harm, but then you need it to like escape that harm. I'm like, porn is no bueno, man. I'm fine. I'm not no fap. I think that's a natural thing, but I just think porn is, I don't know. I might be going out on a limb here, but I think it can't be good for your like reward system. It's just like, it fucks.
I get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with it. I think now there's no turning back now.
We're like, I see what you're saying, and then we don't say anything more.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Anyway, moving on. I'm not gonna go down there. Yeah. Fucking pussies.
Anyway,
to bring it back to the album, we got the album cover up on screen, and talk about unhinged shit. Like, where did the album cover?
So, I mean, all the stuff that I had was just, I would browse like Instagram, and stuff would be recommended to me through just like the Instagram algorithm. And I would just reach out. I reached out for this. So for the, for nursing, it was like the first person I reached out to got back to me. And I thought that was what it's going to be like moving forward. I must have reached out to like 50 different people to see if I could use their artwork. And like, I actually had this guy who there was a guy who I was going to use his artwork. He's from Germany before, but he was making me like fill out all these like contracts and stuff, and they were in German. And I was like, I'm just not signing my name on any of this. Like, he had all these like conditions and stuff. So I ended up saying like, I'm sorry, man, I can't work with you. This is becoming too much of like a fucking legal headache. Like, I literally am doing this for a project that has 0 viewers right now. We're not starting a business or anything. Like, and yeah, Gina's stuff, she actually there's a lot of other artists that she works with. I just found her page, reached out to her, and she had stuff available for us to use. And yeah, I mean, it was like, when I saw her work, I was like, oh, this is like exactly the fucking like vibe I'm going for. And honestly, her work was really similar to the other guy I was working with, but she didn't make me draw up a fucking like a fucking lease. A fucking 28-page lease to like use it for my fucking like random noise rock project. But
hey, they're awesome, man. Like, just wait till this shit blows up, man.
Hell yeah,
they're gonna wish.
Going right to the stars with this shit. But
any day now.
Yeah. We're starting our own crippling crypto.
Crippling crypto.
Cripple
coin.
Yeah. Cripple coin. Yeah.
Crippling coin. How about that? That cripple coin.
Yeah.
That sounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, honestly, like that. That was just pure vibes. I guess I saw her work and I was like, that is the fucking world I'm trying to like paint. And she has done that visually in a way that I could never do. So it was just awesome that she allowed us to use it.
That's dope.
Yeah.
It's be hard to top that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what are the plans for the future? You got shows? You plan on doing some touring maybe?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough because of our living in different cities thing. But it's really just getting to rehearse. Like I'm about to go on tour with this band, You Bred Raptors, for like 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. So like we were going to try and cram a rehearsal into this week, but then I was going to have to go to Massachusetts. And then Horse was playing upstate too on Friday. So like, I'm like just back and forth the whole time. So it's like, we were going to play this show, with DB Cooper up there, but I don't know if it's going to go down just because we're not able to like get together. So, but definitely this fall, we're going to book some East Coast dates and like at least do, you know, Brooklyn and like maybe Philly, or maybe go upstate and then over to Boston or something like that. Like, we just need to get in a room with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because we've had a couple of invites now, but we don't have a set solidified because like Danny lives in New York. He cucks me with like 50 other bands. And no, but I mean, Danny's like a full-time musician. So he's like constantly going on tour and stuff. So it's tough to get together even for like a rehearsal. We definitely want to do it live. Another thing is like, there's just two of us. And the album, if we want to do it like how it's recorded, like there's like 4 guitar tracks at any given moment, or like including like the synth out one. And so we're gonna have to find like musicians to. We have two
Just
right
do a
now.
backing
2 of the
track.
guys.
You play guitar, you have a backing track.
Yeah, no, I mean we were thinking about that. That honestly is
keep it
probably the
simple.
way to go.
Yeah, keep it simple.
That's probably the way. It would be. I mean, I would love to.
Are Pete and Jonathan?
Yeah, so we have Pete and Jonathan from Jonathan's from nursing and needle play, and Pete was from needle play, and so we have both of them. Ideally, I wanted to just do vocals and have like 2 other guitar players doing all that stuff, because it's like I feel like you can do a better. I don't know. There's you're one of the few people, Chris, who can do a one-man show with that kind of energy and play guitar and have all the fucking like. We can't do that, man. It's like, that's your talent. And I want to just be like, do vocals and have the guitars handled by like other guitar players who are just focusing on that. Like, I'd really love to have a live sound without a backing track, but I just don't know if that's like possible right now. So I think we have Jonathan and Pete. Pete's going to play bass. Jonathan's going to play guitar. But even with them, I think we still might need a backing track, depending on how it sounds. We have yet to rehearse for the first time with those guys. So,
well, Caleb from Sterling's in chat. He's telling you to come play his house in Maine. And Brandon from Sterling says that DB Cooper sucks. They do weed. They do, in fact, do weed.
So much weed. And they do hot dogs. They inject hot dogs into their asses.
What the fuck? Okay.
And I'm all for it.
Hey,
they got me to be excited about hot dogs. Time.
So yeah, you guys are involved in multiple other projects. You want to go over them real quick? Just give us a little update on what's going on.
Yeah, I'm about to talk for a long time, I guess.
I know. Fucking every project.
Like,
what project aren't you in? That's a shorter list.
I should just say, like, there's so much shit going on in this city musically that's like nutso, and that has no home.
So yeah,
like we're talking about all this stuff that has no home and no scene and no whatever, and it's like there's a scene of sceneless music. Like there's multiple scenes of like uncategorizable crazy music, and like, you know, over time, and especially because I try to go out a lot, and like any show that I'm remotely interested or like world of music that I want to know more about, I'll like go and try to just talk to some people and figure out the labels involved, just all the logistics of it. And like, so you know, in addition to this project, Horse Torso obviously is my main project. And the plans are to record another album next year. Like I have an album written, and I just need to like save some money, really. and yeah, and, and we play in the city like maybe once every couple months or something, and then we'll do an out of town show here and there. But it's like I'm trying not to go too much ham on it because it's costing me money that I don't have. And then I play with this jazz violinist, Sana Nagano, who does really crazy kind of free improv stuff and also really mathy stuff. And I've been playing recently with this bassist, Jack Lynch, who's doing like some electronic crazy stuff. Yeah. And like and then I just recorded this album with this amazing guitarist, Ryan Klackner. That's also like free improv, but like very shreddy. And he's got kind of like a black metal vibe going to, like kind of a country vibe. It's like he's like a really, he's also got like 6 bands. I'll like send you his label. It's like he's got a label with like a bunch of bands, most of which he's in.
Black metal country shreddy band. That's a
totally,
hell of a mix right there.
Probably about like a few of his projects, Yeah, no. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff like that going on. But and every month it's like some months are completely dead and others are jam packed, So, but yeah, I mean, I'd say like those handful of projects, I'm like, like they're going to be doing shows if they're not already. And yeah, and then like whoever else wants to hire me, please do. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Hit me up, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just cucking me even more. So
yeah,
so
what are you
humiliated.
doing, Tony? Just working a real job and making money, and like I live with 3 people and I'm almost 40. Fuck you, man.
Dude, you're living the fucking dream, man. What are you talking about?
I mean, I love it. You're right. I love it.
Yeah. You're so much happier than I am.
Yeah, when I'm able to get into the bathroom because there's 3 other people that need to take a shit. But
nice.
When I'm not busy, like
just go in the street. It's New York, dude.
Yeah, I mean, no one would smell the difference if I did. In fact, that's the main smell.
No one would even call the cops.
Dude, when I was in Brooklyn, that was definitely a thing. Yeah. Like, it was not. It was not pleasant.
You don't even need to take a shit in the sidewalk. You just go in the road, and cars will just they'll honk, but they'll just go around you.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like it'll be fine. I'll put a cone. I'll put cones around myself, and then I'll be declared like official.
That's how you broke your finger originally, right? You were shitting and fingering your ass in the street.
That's exactly what I was.
Got a little too carried away.
That's exactly
folks,
right.
Be careful.
Yeah, I meant to go to the left, and I went to the right.
Yeah.
So,
I gotta work on
Tony, you just have nursing, or did you have some other stuff happening?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I was in a bunch of projects that kind of fell apart over the past, since COVID started. And yeah, it's pretty much just this one. I honestly, I don't have a lot of time really. And nursing, that first album really fucked my sleep schedule up because I would get home late. And by the time I had dinner and kind of was able to unwind from work, I was like, all right, now I got to practice guitar for the next fucking 3-4 hours. And so, I don't know. It's tough. It's I just don't have a lot of time for multiple projects. And yeah. And I get really obsessive. So it's typically at any given point, there's one project that I'm really putting everything into. But we'll see. I don't know.
What's that project for you right now?
That's this project where it's really what I was. I mean, I definitely am still nursing. Again, it's more of it's just so fun for me as a guitar player to play that kind of stuff. But it isn't exactly where my emotions are, if that makes sense. This one for me is more of I had a kind of emotive state that I was that I felt like I didn't capture with nursing. And I was for this one, I really want to focus on capturing that. It's all feels, man.
So you guys don't have any merch yet? Are there plans?
We don't have shit. Yeah.
Are there plans though for
Yeah. No, we'll be there. I mean, it's just it's saving up, man. Again.
I would
you could do a pre-order or something, and then print off the pre-order.
Yeah.
Right. I imagine when we get our like tour date type stuff together, it'll be all part of one bigger push. Like, you know, that'd be the time for us to just like have a product that we can sell at shows. And, you know, I don't know, that my experience has been that comes in handy the most just for something to have at shows, because you play a good show and everyone wants to support, you know, and then you might have a few leftovers that like you have on Bandcamp, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think that would make sense for us to sort of all do that stuff at one time when we're, but at the same time, I'm sure we'll play shows before merch takes so long.
Yeah.
Like I would have to imagine we'll have some shows under our belt by the time we get merch.
So yeah, I mean, after my wedding in early October, when I finally can save some money, I'm going to do CD presses just like myself. And I'll probably do like 200-300 and see how that works out. And then like, I think we were talking about some people about maybe doing vinyl down the line, but like ideally we're trying to like, we have another thing that we're working on right now. Like the second album for this. And like that we're trying to like sell to like any, you know, label that might actually be interested in working with us. We're like, this one, we didn't have any kind of following, you know, no one knew who the fuck we are. We're like, let's just put it out ourselves. I'm not going to like try to go label shopping or something. But for the second one, it would be great because it would alleviate a lot of the financial burden, which is a huge fucking hindrance for us.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess, yeah, get in line. Everyone's trying to get that.
Yeah, right.
So I guess we could close this out with your album of the year so far.
Ooh.
Shit.
Well, like we've already discussed, I certainly love the Chat Pile album. I knew I would, but I really, really do. Yeah,
that's at the top for me right now too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No. I don't know. I always have trouble with this question because I never remember like when anything came out, but all I can really think of, well, okay. The band Codeine from the 90s put out an album like a month ago or something. And it sounds kind of like it might have come out then too. Yeah, they're a great band. And to get jazzy on you, I don't even know if this dude put out anything this year. I think he did, but there's this drummer, Christian Lillinger, a German dude. And the stuff he does with this vibraphonist, Christopher Dell, it's the craziest rhythmic shit. Even if you take away the other things that are happening, which like he does like, gets these overtones out of cymbals by just striking them in different ways with different surfaces of the stick. And it's it's crazy shit I've never heard.
Overtone. Look at Mr. Academia over here.
Right.
I know. I mean, you know,
he makes these overtones
sounding like a piece of shit. Yeah, the risk of being a total fucking idiot.
I totally know what overtones are. Yeah.
You know, I guess I bring that up because it's like, I feel like that's the kind of stuff that translates. Like you could have a show that's like mostly like mathcore or something and then like throw that on there and people would like mosh to it probably. Because it's just crazy and you just don't know what's going on at any given second. Yeah, check him out, Christian Lillinger. Anyway, your turn, Tony.
Dude, I'm sorry this is a bit of a cop-out, but like I fucking hate album of the year stuff. I don't know. It just bugs me personally. Because it's like I'm not 8 years old. I don't have like a favorite color and like a favorite number. And I like what I like in that moment. Like there's tons of stuff that comes out all the time.
Well, what'd you like this year so far? It's not my favorite thing.
Again, I'm with Danny where it's like I can't even really keep track of like when things come out. I mean, obviously God's Country, that Chat Pile album was like phenomenal, and I knew it was going to be. But like I've been listening to just weird shit from like a long time ago.
What are you listening to right now that's really good?
I'm listening to a lot of Persian pop.
The fuck? Okay.
From Iran. Yeah, dude.
I was
like the
not
70s.
expecting that. Okay.
Dude, it's the shit, man. I can send you like a playlist. I can't pronounce anyone's names, because it would just be like insensitive and how horrible the mispronunciation would be.
Yeah.
But dude, Persian pop is the shit because they do like Western kind of like song structures and like tonality and like chord progressions and stuff, but they have that Persian scale, right? Like from just like more traditional like Persian music, and when they mix it together, it's like poppy, like Baroque pop songs that are like haunting, and they have so much dissonance and like tension, and it's like it'll fucking unzip you. It'll just like break you. It's awesome.
Okay,
Definitely.
yeah, send me some
Yeah,
Persian
dude,
pop
it's the
song.
shit. I sent Eric some.
I can see how
he was
that
jamming
sound would
some
really
of
be
that.
intense.
Yeah.
Just that type of scale does like give a certain feeling that you don't get in Western music.
Yeah, and depending on how you like superimpose those two, it's like a really strong emphasis on like the major seven or like the like or like major nines and stuff like that, and even like sort of passing tones and shit like that in like pop music, and it sounds very good. But yeah,
Caleb in chat says microtonal pop. Is that like what?
Yeah. No, it's not microtonal. It's just like I don't know, Persian scale, right? Dan, you went to school for this shit. Persian scale is like there's like
is it not just harmonic minor, but I didn't go to scale. I mean, like I don't like my
I'm gonna pull
the thing that I want to say is harmonic minor, but that doesn't seem right. Like it's
its own thing, and it would be like
there's the scale that's got like what, like 3 half steps in a row or something. It's got something really chromatic like in the middle of it. But I totally don't
so it's it's a whole step or no, half step, whole step, half step, half step, half step. So there's those 3 half
right
steps.
right
Yeah, that's where that is. And then the whole step, half step. See, man, we made it fucking nice and nerdy for you.
Nice.
You gave me all this shit and then you bested me.
But
well, is there anything else you guys?
I'm literally on Wikipedia right now, so I kind of cheated. But
is there anything else you guys want to say before we head on out?
Dude, thank you so much for having us on. And dude, I fucking love you. Are the most rise and grind musician or music participant person that I know. Like just nonstop fucking grinding, which respect the shit out of.
I appreciate it, man.
Dude, it's really inspirational.
I don't know. I would say Danny's probably the most rise and grind guy. Like in what, like 1,000.
Danny was playing baseball for like 8 hours today.
Yeah, right.
Like, crack addicts. Yeah. No. Danny's extremely hardworking as well. I'm just saying, like your work ethic is like, and just like tenacity is fucking. It's inspiration.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, man.
One thing to really channel that into like random other people's projects where a lot of the things are already worked out and you're just kind of like coming in and like doing your part. Like, like this is like a degree of like entrepreneurship really like on your part. Like your own project and then the podcast and then like, your merch is killing and like, you've got like approaches that are unique for all the different like endeavors you have, and it's like
you're getting big names too, man. Like shit's happening for you. I'm really happy.
Dude, wait till you see the next four names.
Yeah, dude, that's fine. Anyway, thanks so much for having us on. Like even fucking considering it. And do you watch those like entrepreneur fucking rise and grind like that content?
No,
like
I can't see you watching that.
No, like neither did I. But like just like the most like unlikely people will get into that kind of shit, where it's just like like 4 a.m. awaken, like 4:05 a.m. jerk off to like hardcore porn, get the fucking blood going. Like, because if you took that kind of approach to fucking people out of their pensions, like you'd be a millionaire. But
dude, that's crazy.
Dude.
If there's a video where a dude says, wake up at 4 a.m. and then jerk off to get the blood flowing, I have to see it. So if you know that video, you got to send that to me because I would love to. So fucking funny.
A video of him jerking out? No.
Yes, the video. Of him
that's all I heard.
I have to see it, Tony.
I'll send you a video of me jerking off at 4 a.m. Yeah.
That's probably the clip. Honestly, that's probably what I'm gonna be putting up on Instagram.
Yep. Save it till the end. You know?
Anyway, so if you're into some dark as hell experimental noise rock, you gotta check out When the Drugs That Made You Sick Are the Drugs That Made You Better, the debut album from Crippling Alcoholism, which dropped back in August. You're on Facebook, Bandcamp, Instagram, and all streaming platforms. Are there any like social media things that I didn't pick up on? Any like websites you're trying to send people to? Anything like that?
Just Instagram, right? I mean, we have a Facebook, so I think
We
it
have
has
a
like
Pornhub account.
Please like it.
Yeah.
All right. You have 2 Instagram accounts, actually. You really should get one.
I know,
One of those
Tony. You
deleted.
got to delete that other one.
I know. I'm just so lazy.
Why'd you delete the wrong one? Or whatever?
Yeah. I suck at being
I
online.
definitely tagged the wrong account in one of the posts I made.
I mean, like I said, I'm a boomer too. I don't know how to do it either. Like,
All right.
as
Thanks
for-
so much, Chris.
Oh, absolutely, man. As for me, drop my channel, follow so you always know when I go live. You can also sub to get access to the interviews before they hit YouTube and streaming services, as well as get some exclusive emotes. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. YouTube folks, if you like the video, please drop a like, tickle the notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe. It's a great way to support me for free. Check out my music, The Sound That Ends Creation, at thesoundthatenscreation.bandcamp.com. My next guest is 156 Silence, who dropped their debut album, Narrative, back in August through Sharp Tone Records. Join us this Sunday, the 18th at 6 Central. That's 6 p.m. Central this time for the live cast. It's an hour earlier. Thanks for being here, guys. Hope you had a great time.
Yeah,
thanks so much, Chris.
Hell yeah, and
All
thank
right.
you guys for watching and listening.
Why take the beat of dead